Welcome to home practice and today's class on articulating undulations. Hi there, my name is Tom, and for those who it might be helpful for, I am a white male standing dancer with a bushy beard. I'm wearing dark blue dance trousers, a grey top, a yellow t-shirt, and I'm in a bright room with a wooden floor, and I'm also seated on a chair. So today's class, articulating undulations. So an undulation, we could say, is a wave-like motion that moves from one place to another. So I could undulate, for example, in my arm from my shoulder through my elbow to my fingers in this smooth wave-like motion. And I can also go from the fingers through the arm down back into the shoulder. I could also undulate through my spine and through my other limbs as well. So for me, when I practice undulations or articulating undulations, I like to have a little bit more space in my body. So the first thing we're going to do is find some space, and particularly in the joints. For me, a good place to start is in my wrist. You might find that there would be another place in your body that perhaps is a bit easier to access. So please make adaptations, find a translation that works for you. So I'm going to take one hand above my wrist on my forearm, and I'm going to take quite a firm grip. And then from here, I'm going to try and extend the wrist, make a little bit more space in the joint of the wrist. I make a bit more space and then I soften. So there's almost like a pulse that starts. I open the joint and then I release and soften. Opening and softening. So it might help to start to extend a little bit through the fingers and through the palm of the hand, to help that feeling of the wrist opening and softening closed. Opening. And what this does is it invites some lubrication and some space into the joint. And my hand that's holding my forearm is just creating a framework that I can almost resist and open against. And if you're curious where this kind of work comes from, another favourite resource of mine is an organisation called Energy Arts, who teach a lot of Tai Chi and Qigong. So you can check them out in the description below if you're interested to learn a bit more. Great. And once I've done that, a few moments, I can swap over to the other side. So taking my hand, gripping around the forearm, above the wrist, and then I start to open the joint of the wrist. And if it helps, again, to use the fingers and the palm to help you there. I'm trying to open and then soften the hand. And I try to open the wrist really equally. So trying not to maybe close in one side and open the other, or the other side, closing in one side, opening in the other. All directions opening, all sides opening at the same time and softening at the same time. The timing of this might be different for you, so feel free to go a little bit slower or faster. Find a pace and a rhythm that you can really feel the detail of this opening and softening inside the joint of the wrist or wherever else you're working. Great. And then once you feel like you have a feeling of that in your wrists, we're going to find a place to place of the arms in the space. And then I'm going to start to try to open and close my wrists without holding in the arms. Now, if you're a standing dancer, you might also, as we start to open the wrists, you might try to explore opening in the ankles and the feet at the same time. So fingers, hands and wrists, ankles, feet and toes, having a sense that there's a bit of space coming in. And slowly, bit by bit, we're going to invite the rest of the body to join in. So again, find the timing that works for you. You might find closing your eyes might help as well to really send your attention into the detail of this motion. And I encourage you to go as slowly as you need so you can really feel the very subtle feeling of the joints opening. And again, this might take some time. It might take some time, might take several practices. You can, of course, repeat these classes whenever you like. And moving on, I'm going to start to see if I can invite my elbows, perhaps my knees in. So bit by bit, I'm opening the joints of my body, starting with the wrists, and then bit by bit inviting the other joints or articulations in. So if I'm working with my ankles and my feet, then I encourage you to push a little bit into the floor so that you can work against something to find that opening, a little bit of resistance to work against. So the elbows and the knees are joining in. Now can I think about my shoulders, perhaps my pelvis? This might be helpful as you open to think about pushing down into the seat. For standing dancers, you might like to get up here, to stand up and try this standing. So whatever position you're in, think about pushing into the surface that is supporting you to find this opening and softening. Opening the joints and then softening. So then I'm going to go towards the core of my body, my spine, my pelvis, my up into my head. Sometimes if I think about my face, that can help. You see my eyebrows lifting as I open the joints. For me, that's sometimes helpful. And so, bit by bit, I've invited my whole body to start this pulsing, opening and softening. And that invitation is really generous, so let your rib cage be involved, let your midriff, your soft belly also be involved. You might find it works for you to have a slightly different position with the arms or perhaps other parts of the body. You might find a little bit of a curve is helpful in the spine. And this might be a very new feeling for you, so go steady. Don't push too hard. Try to keep it really soft. We're not really using the muscles to open. We're just softly inviting a gentle pulse open and then a softening. Great. And then from here, we're going to start to play a little bit. So I'm going to start to perhaps open in one part of my body, perhaps my shoulder here. I try to open here, going with the sensation. And then as that softens, I try to open in another part, so my other shoulder. As this softens, I move the center of the opening, perhaps into my elbow, and I'm going to play a bit, going through different parts of my body. So as one part opens and then softens, another center will open. It's a bit like the lights going on and off. And every time one light dims, another one lights up. And you can explore those openings traveling through the body and see if you can visit all those different places. So the breath, really nice and relaxed, is really helpful. So just a few moments to see if you can light up the whole body, moving from place to place. Don't forget the back of the body, so you might light up in a shoulder blade, for example, or perhaps one side of the lower back. Perhaps parts of the head and the skull. And going at the pace that suits you. So that we're opening, really softly opening the body and moving this opening center around to different parts. Just a few more moments to explore. You might find also maybe two parts light up at the same time. Really try to be clear where that light is going on and off. That joint is opening and softening. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to center, and I'm going to put my chair away and I'll meet you in the center of your space. Want to do a few more mobilizations here involving a bit more of the body. For this section, you might find it helpful to look at Amy's seed class on finding mobility, or also Amy had a launch day mini class about curves, tilts and twists. That might be something that you can also refer to. And if you haven't done those already, perhaps you can do those as your next class. So I'm going to think about my fingertips coming into the center line and then changing direction and then going away from the center line. Fingertips coming towards, perhaps crossing the center line, and then going away from the center line. And I have this undulation through the arms, being led by the tips of the fingers. And for standing dancers, you might also like to work with one leg. So I'm thinking about the toes coming towards the center line and then turning away from the center line. So if balance is a little bit tricky today and you still want to work with the legs, you might maybe use the back of a chair, or you might just keep the toes or the ball of the foot working on the floor to help with balance. So I'm really trying to find the smoothness here of this wave-like motion. And if you have a bit of space, you can also think about one arm crossing the first time on top and then the other arm crossing. For those working with the legs, if you get tired, just change over and then catch the wave towards the center line with the toes and the fingertips leading. So I'm gonna try and generously invite my whole body in to this smooth wave in and out like a figure of 8. And the breathing will help tremendously here. So really think about a smooth breath that will support this smooth movement. Great. And then I'm going to reverse that. So I'm going to think about the bottom of my shoulder blade as the other end of my whole arm line. So fingertips to shoulder blade into the spine. And what if I start an undulation that starts from the shoulder blade that trails through the arm to the fingertips? And what if I do that both sides? It's the shoulder blade here that is initiating this undulation. For standing dancers, or those who want to work with the legs, working with the heel leading this time. Again, use a chair if that helps for balance, or perhaps skimming on the floor. And thinking about the whole body being invited into this movement. So think about the rib cage, the spine all the way up to the head, and just let the whole body follow in. Again, smooth breathing. Just go as slow as you need so you can really articulate, feel like you don't miss any part of this smooth figure of 8 motion. Swap over, standing dancers, if you get tired, or when you get tired, I should say. If you're working with balance, perhaps letting the eyes gently focus on one point in the room, perhaps in the distance on the horizon, might help with the balance. Just a few more journeys to the center line, and then away from the center line, undulating through. And then when you're ready, give a little shake off. And we're going to move this time into undulations in the spine. So I'm going to work with my, starting with my lowest mobile spine. So I'm going to take my fingertips, and a bit like a little localized rainstorm, I'm going to just bring some attention to that front line, moving up my body. I'm going to try not to hit my microphone there. So I'm going to skip, and I go up the front of my throat, my chin, my nose, all the way to the top of my head. Let's do that one more time. For standing dancers, you can also just bring a little bit of focus or awareness to the front line of the legs. And we're moving all the way up towards the top of the head. So perhaps you feel a little bit of tingle. That will help you to start to find a smooth and continuous pathway that moves from the bottom to the top. So from here, I'm going to push my lowest mobile spine forwards, so it feels like there's an opening in the front. And then that opening is going to travel up. You can also use your hands here, if that's your fingers waking up, if that's helpful. And I'm going to move up the chest, the throat, the chin, the nose, to the forehead. And there's a softening over. I'm going to turn to the side. You don't have to, unless, of course, you want to turn away from your screen, which is fine. I'm going to start again. Lowest mobile spine coming forwards, pushing through, opening. That opening moves up the body, up, over, and softening. And then I'm just going to start again. So it's like a ribbon that's attached from one end and is free on the other end. So the head is free. For standing dancers, I encourage you to see if you can think about the legs, perhaps the knees coming forward, the front of the thighs, then the pelvis, then moving upwards. Find a pace that works for you. See if you can find a real smoothness here. So I had a little bit of a judder there. So I need to perhaps use my breath to release, perhaps even go a bit faster. And working in this sequential way, you'll find little sticking points. So I found one around here where I shake a little bit. So I'm going to just slow down there and see if I can find a bit more smoothness. Great. You might find that your movement is bigger than mine or smaller than mine. It doesn't matter, as long as you're trying to find a real smoothness going up the body without missing out any part of that front line. Great. Let's now do the opposite. So I'm going to start here, and I can tap with my fingers to find this front line, but starting from the head, going all the way down to my available base. Great. And then I'm going to start with the top of the head coming forward, then the eyes, the nose, the chin, the throat, the chest, the midriff, and working down to your lowest available point. And then for standing dancers, I reckon sitting down here is really helpful. If you're working seating, kind of perhaps leaning back into the back of your chair at the bottom so that you have a little reset before you start again. So we're undulating from the top, using our front line of our body, smoothness with the breath, and really trying to make sure we have this smooth pathway without leaving any part out. And then what we can do is we can go back and forth. So I'm starting from the bottom to the top. And then I go from the top to the bottom. This might be a new movement for you, or you might be really used to it. I recommend if you're used to it, go a bit slower. You might find that you find some surprising places that you've been skipping out before. So going up and down, undulating in different ways, using this front line, maybe playing a little bit with pace, really trying to meet that whole line, and then come to a rest. We're going to try the side now. So with a steady base, feeling grounded into either your sitting bones, into your seat, into the floor, through the seat, or perhaps through your feet. We're going to, with a wide base or a grounded base, we're going to push from one side, and the lowest mobile spine is going to start to push to the side. Use the base to push against so that you can open and come all the way over until the head comes. Then pushing from the base to the other side. And then you start a continuous undulation from side to side, with the base starting and the head eventually following. Pushing down into your surface. Go slow enough that you can really feel all of that side line. And for anybody who needs to, you can also use your fingers to tap if that's helpful to bring more attention there. I sometimes feel like my shoulder can get involved here. That's sometimes helpful for me. Waving and undulating side to side, using the base to initiate. Now we're going to change the opposite. So letting the head take you to the side and then let it curve up and then lead you over to the other side. Now, if I'm between two panes of glass, that's sometimes helpful so that I really know I can feel this real side movement. Of course, we can mix, but we'll save that for a moment, where we mix planes. So we're still working in this sideways direction. It might feel a bit awkward, so slow down. And then perhaps you would like to start to snake a little bit, that the head might lead you in a bit of a figure of 8. Use the eyes to guide you through the space. Or if you feel a bit dizzy, then perhaps focus the eyes on one place. Let the whole body join in, so the head is leading and the lower body follows. Great. So you might like to pause and practice here if you want to do any parts of that again. One last thing before we move on to a sequence of movement. I'm going to just loosen my spine by taking a base, a wide base, and just letting my base push, and that sends my arms, and my head is the last thing to turn. So I'm just releasing the spine a little bit. And if you're working seated and your hands are hitting your knees or perhaps the wheels of the chair, then you can also think about bending and just swinging with the arms a bit higher. So this is just a chance to release the spine, any tension that you've built up. Pushing from the base. Great. And then we'll get going on our sequence. So hopefully now we can put some of those undulations into the movements that I'm going to teach you now. And then you can really start to tune into the details of those undulations moving through different parts of the body. This first movement with a nice steady wide base, I'm going to take that wave, that snaking wave from the beginning and go to one side and then the other side, and I'm going to finish either facing towards the side or the diagonal. It's okay, whichever one, just slightly off center. So I'm going to wave through, starting with the top of my spine. The lower body follows to here. I'm going to add another layer on, and that's the arms. So in a similar way to how we found this articulation before, but I'm going to, with the palms up, I'm going to follow to the right and then wrap up to the other side. Yeah? From here, I'm going to drop. Yeah? So I snake and then come through to here. For those working seated, you can make sure your elbows are a little bit lifted so that you can have a drop in the elbows too. Yeah? From here, I'm grounding into this side so that I can push away and then find this side articulation through the head, from the base to the head, one side and then the other. I'm going to add this time my shoulder and my elbow, my hand. Shoulder, elbow, hand to here. Let's go from the top. So we go to the right, snaking to the other side. I'm dropping, I'm pushing through to one side and then the other until I get to here. Standing dancers, we're going to come to a turn here using this edge to cut through space. Wheelchair dancers, if you want to come over here and instead of holding the hand out to the side, maybe find hands on the wheels to find a turn to come back to the front. Again, from the top, we go snaking to one side, to the other side. We drop, we pour this undulation from the base to the top. We come round to face the front. I'm going to articulate my little finger and it's going to come up and brush my sternum where my ribs meet in the center. Brushing through here, and then I'm going to go up, forward, and then follow with a windmill of the other arm. Yeah? So little finger leads, brushes through, big circle forward, and up to the other side. Now, adding a little layer, I'm going to, as if my nose forgets that it's going to follow my little finger, and then tucks under. So there's an articulation of the front line coming from my head down to my base. So I've had a turn here. I've gone through finger, nose, up, and then I'm going to drop this side, drop the elbow, and I have this nice curve here with my palm facing up, and then I'm going to trace through behind until the hand is a mirror image of this place. So I go dropping through, over the top, through the mirror image, and then clapping forward here. Yeah, we've almost finished that 8 count. Let's go from the top with a few counts. So I'm going to go 1, 2, drop on and, 3, 4, turn on 5. I'm going to come through with my finger, 6, and drop on 7, and clap on 8. On the and count, after the 8, I'm going to bring my palms apart, cutting through space this way. So one palm is facing down, one is facing up. And then from my fingertips, I'm going to start to twist the fingers, the hands, the wrists, the forearms, the elbows, the shoulders, twisting myself up, including the torso, until I twist myself up to one side. Yeah? So I came over the top. Arms come apart, then I twist myself up to a much smaller shape. From here, I'm going to really release and swing the arms. So from here, this release, if you haven't seen already, you can check out my release-based class, the home practice class, and we'll go over some of those real swinging motions here. Yeah? So we have, we've twisted ourselves up, we swing 1, swing 2, and we come up to here. Let's go from the top with counts. So we go 1, 2, and 3, 4, turn on 5, 6, and 7, clap 8, and 1, 2, and. From here, I'm going to think about being in a tube. Yeah, a tube that surrounds me that goes from the floor up to the ceiling. From here, I'm going to start to find a tracing through, and I'm trying to trace my body going down towards the base for the rest of that 8. One more time from the top on this first side. So we go over to the side 1, wrap up 2 and 3, 4, turn on 5, finger 6, nose on and 7, drop, clap on 8, and 1, 2, and this tube here, I'm going to decide to go this side first. So I'm going to brush my cheek on my arm here and then on the other side, so that when I do the other side, I know to go the other way. So I'm going to keep going through, and I'm going to touch the tube with different parts of my body going round in a circle. And I might start to come up again, or I might go down. Perhaps if you're working standing, you can go to the knees. The aim for this part is that you don't leave any section out or you don't jump. So I might be working just with my head and my shoulders, and I'm trying to be really smooth, trying to touch for example, the shoulder onto the side of this tube that I'm in. Then I go from my shoulder blade, touching the tube, my spine, my other shoulder blade, my other shoulder, so that I'm not skipping out, for example, going from one side to the other. I go through all of those places. I think about the rings of Saturn the planet, that I'm kind of revolving around those rings. And I take my own path, my own journey, smooth journey, orbiting around this tube. Great, and to put that into counts, so we had clap on 8 and 1, twisting up, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On 8, settle yourself, ready to go on the other side. Let's go once again, that same side, the first side, once again. So I'm going to go 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8, and 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, taking my own path, 6, 7, 8. Let's try that with music now, and then we'll go over the second side after music. So, just going to wait for the pace to come in. Two and 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go one more time. And 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6. Drop 7 and 8. And 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, great. So let's try that on the other side. That means we're going to snake to the other side and then come back and face maybe diagonal, maybe towards the side. So we have that snake going this way first. We'll add the arms, palms facing up. We go snake to this side, and then we wrap up 2 and. We're going to push through the base into the ground to Undulate, open this side. Undulate, open this side. If you're working standing, cutting through space this way. If you're working wheelchair dancers, hands round to come back to the front, turning. Little finger articulates, brushing the sternum at the front of the body, and then the nose tries to catch up, undulating through the front of the body as the other arm comes up. We drop on 7, coming over. Remember the mirror image, that's the image, and that's the mirror image, coming over to clap on 8. And bring the arms apart. We're twisting the only way that's easy to twist, which is this way, fingers, hands, wrists, forearms, elbows, upper arms, shoulders, twisting yourself up. I should have said this before, but if you're working wheelchair dancers, you might find that this swing is going to get in the way of your knees or your chair. So feel free to bend the arms and just swing the heavy elbows, heavy shoulders. Yeah, so we came over this way. We swing 1, 2, and the other way first. Finding the rest of that 8 count to find your continuous journey around the inside of your tube, perhaps going down, perhaps coming up again, trying not to skip any points so you can clearly feel the continuation that's going here, that's going there, through your body. When you get to 8, settle down, ready to go again. So I'm going to mark through on that second side again, and then we'll do with music, and we'll go first side into second side. So the second side, marking through. So we go 1, 2, and 3, 4, turn on 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what's important on that journey of those rings of Saturn is that you find your own smooth journey. You're really articulating, really aware of which part of your body is touching the inside of that tube that we're in from floor to ceiling. Okay, so we're going to first side and then into second side with music. For the last part of class, we're going to have some time to play and explore with some of the material and the principles that we've been working with before. So it's a bit of a research time for you to explore, follow your curiosity with some of those things. I'm going to add some extra inspiration. So in a moment, you'll see a short video clip of these beautiful tropical birds taking off, very colourful, and this slow motion footage, you can see how the birds are using their wings to fly, to take off. And notice that the wings don't come to a certain point and then retrace the steps, kind of mechanically going back and forth. There's an undulation there, a circularity, a wave that moves through the wing from the feather tip all the way into the core of the body, from the core of the body all the way to the feather tip. So as we play with some of the material that we've explored so far in class, I want you to think about how these wings might inspire your moving. You could think about your arms, of course, like wings, but perhaps you could also think about other parts of your body. Your spine, could your spine be a wing as you're moving through space? Could your leg, could part of your rib cage be a wing as well? So exploring different ways that idea of this undulating, circular, smooth action could move through different parts of your body. And then to remind you from what we've done before, these openings in the joints, how the opening of the joint, for example, in my shoulder, then my elbow, then my wrist in my fingertips can help to make this wave-like motion really smooth and continuous. And then an invitation to go at your own pace. You might like to be very quick. You might like to slow things down, or a bit of both. You might like to make something very small, so you're really concentrating on a small part of your body. Or you might like to explore what it feels like to undulate through the whole body at the same time. And then finding a way that you can continue your exploration, follow your curiosity for the next few minutes. We'll have some music to support. And you'll see me moving, and you'll also see some more clips of these beautiful tropical birds taking off to help inspire you. in your own time, finding a way to bring your investigation, your research to an end. And perhaps all together we can take a collective breath in, reaching the arms up, hanging from the fingertips for a moment, just stretching the body out different ways, finding some twists. One more breath in to make space in the whole body from bottom to top, and then softly bringing yourself back to an easy working position. So thanks very much for joining. If you like this class, you can click like below. You can also press subscribe so you get notifications when a new class comes out. And also feel free to make use of the comments section below to perhaps ask a question or to tell us what you think of home practice. Thanks again and see you next time.